Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to Salty Roots. Thanks for checking out another video. My name is Joe. Today we will be talking about the dreaded dinos. Seem to be rampant in our hobby this day and age. Not exactly sure why. If you talk to a reefer, say, that's been doing this for 20 years, they'll tell you that it's never used to be a problem, but now it is. You see it popping up everywhere. So I'm not new to that. I've ran into dino a few times. I've had a couple of different kinds, and so the point of this video is just going to show you how I chose to deal with them and ultimately what led to me getting rid of those dinos. And so with that, let's jump in. Please remember to like, comment, hit the notification bell so you know when the next video is coming out, and let's get rid of those dinos. Bring it on. Let's get your tanks back to shining and looking great again. So the first step, and probably the easiest step, is just to black out your tank for a few days. Algae, or most algae, thrives on light, so you want to eliminate that energy source. There's really no solution in my opinion. It's going to be a multi-pronged approach, and this is just the first and again easiest step. Alright, so with dinos, one of the first things that you want to do, you'll pretty much get this advice across the board, and I totally agree with it, is you want to get a microscope. You can get them pretty cheap, or as expensive as you'd like. I think I literally found mine at Kohl's. So it's a toy microscope. You want to grab a sample of those dinos and look at them under a microscope to know which type you're dealing with. Some will be resolved almost overnight with UV. Others will, take much longer to be. Depends if they, come up into the water column, if they stay on the sand, on the rocks, etc., etc. So the first thing you want to do is, again, grab a sample. Usually these little microscopes come with little slide decks. So grab a sample, put it on that slide deck, and then take a look, to see the actual cell makeup of the dino. This is the, like I said, simple toy microscope I got from Kohl's on sale. Was $60. Got it for $23 because I don't know, kids don't find science interesting these days, unfortunately. It's gonna be hard to get a shot of this, but since I have the tank all wrapped up, I'm gonna try to grab a sample from the sump down here. It's in this first chamber. There it is. You can see it's one of the signs of dino is just the stringy snot-like appearance. So fairly certain that's a piece of the dino. So I'll grab a sample of that and take a look. It's inconclusive. I keep getting the dinos. I can tell it's dinos. But you need to get down to the actual shape of the cells. Pointy, is it round, so on and so forth. I can definitely tell they're dino cells. I just can't get it clear enough to get the exact shape of it, so I'm gonna try to grab another sample. All right, so this time I grabbed as much as I possibly could, so I got a pretty big sample there. Again, I think it's mixed in with some hair algae, but let's see what we got. Should definitely be able to see it here. So if you are dealing with dinos, one thing you should definitely do is join this dino support group that's out on Facebook. I'll put the screenshot of the group up now. Tons of great resources there, including a few of these reference guides that I'll also show. The one I'll show now goes through the various types, kind of the big three, if you will. There's lots of dinos out there, but these three are most common in the saltwater aquarium. So I find these guys to be super helpful, and it is how I identified this particular strain in my tank now. Based on that microscope shot, I think what I have is osteoporosis, I believe is how you pronounce it. And that's the type of dinos that I'm dealing with in the Red Sea Reefer 350 right now. I actually had dinos in a previous tank that's no longer running. It was a 150-gallon tank that was out in the living room area of the basement, and that was a different type of dinos. My old 150 that I had before I had this channel, where I had a very long battle with dinos. It was the closest I've ever been just to quitting the hobby altogether. It was absolutely awful. It was one of the harder dinos to get rid of. And so anyway, in this upcoming clip, you'll see what those look like under the microscope. So unfortunately, that was Prorocentrum, I believe is how you say it, and it was my first bout with dinos, and it happened to be one of, if not the hardest dino to get rid of. So that was not a fun time, and again, almost drove me to quit the hobby. But again, I found that guide on this Facebook group, among other helpful resources. Okay, so now you've identified which type of dino you have. What is that information for? So here's where it definitely gets into kind of your preference and how you choose to attack dinos. Again, I'll say there really is not one single way to do it. You do have to have a multi-pronged approach, but knowing which type you're dealing with certainly is going to help. For example, on that previous tank, as you just saw, I was dealing with Prorocentrum, and really UV is not going to be very helpful in that case. It doesn't really come up into the water column. It doesn't get processed through the UV, and so you have to take a different approach. There's millions of ways you can go about this. In this case with osteoporosis, or however you say that, UV may be a little bit more helpful, and so that's something you could potentially try. Again, it's not going to for sure give you an answer or give you a silver bullet by knowing this information. It's just going to be one more step in the process, and something that's going to be helpful, especially if you reach out to experts on this topic. They're going to want to know which type you're dealing with before they give you advice. So it's just something good to know. Attacking these, actually what helped me with my previous battle with the Prorocentrum, and what I think took those away. That's a very hard thing to say exactly what did it. A lot of the times what you see in the battle of dinos is people are trying so many different things that they typically latch on to the last thing they tried when the dinos finally go away and say, hey, that's what did it. And that may be, but there's really no way of saying that for sure. As we know, the reef tank is typically going to be a mature ecosystem where things take time, right? And so maybe something you did 3, 4, 5 weeks ago that is just now, coming to fruition, and that's actually what took out the dinos, but because you just did something yesterday, you think that's actually what it was. So it's a tough one. It's a pretty hot topic in the hobby right now of, what is the answer, and I don't think there is one. I think it's a multi-pronged approach, as I keep saying, and here's just my 2 cents on what helped me is what I'm about to show you now. Again, my strategy in attacking these and what I think actually took them out. So I'm not here to say, exactly what caused them in the first place. That's a whole nother topic of conversation that's way above my head. I know a likely source is a nutrient imbalance. You can look at your nitrates and your phosphates being way out of whack. There's tons of things. Also, something you can look at is your water source, of course. I noticed, as you'll see here, I was actually getting some TDS in my water. So it was time to go ahead and change that resin out, and I wasn't aware of that, and so I'm not sure how long I was actually putting TDS water into my tank, and that's probably part of it. Again, there's lots of ways to look at that, and I'm not going to go down the route of what causes dinos because that's such a hot topic right now. I'm just, as the channel always says, trying to help you be successful and show you what I believe took mine out, which is probably what you're most interested in watching this video anyway. So let's get into that. I actually chose to go with Dr. Tim's method. If you're not familiar with Dr. Tim, he is an expert in bacteria. It's actually what he got his PhD in. You can look all this information up online. He is very knowledgeable on bacteria fighting various pests in the reef tank. So Dr. Tim actually has a really cool chart. It doesn't only speak to dinos, it speaks to a lot of problems in the reef tank and his recommended solutions for those problems. So I'll put that chart up now. But then also he has a really cool, what I found to be pretty effective plan to fight dinos with just a couple of products. And so I'll put a card of that up where it's kind of the approach, and you can screenshot this and use it. And you can obviously find all this information on Dr. Tim's website. It's pretty straightforward. It's drtimsaquatics.com. But it's just a couple of products. They're not too expensive, and I'll go through kind of my process and quick time lapses of me going through this process and ultimately what I think has cleared it up in this case, and I think it's what cleared them up in my last tank with the Pro Centrum. Again, can't say for certain because I've tried so many things, but I've had a lot of luck with it, and hopefully it helps you too. So Bulk Reef Supply actually sells like it's a dinoflagellate kit or something like that, where they send you this card and then the supplies you need. So this is the card I received again when I was fighting them on my old tank. What you're going to get is Dr. Tim's Refresh and Dr. Tim's Waste Away, and then again you're gonna wrap your tank up for a few days and then follow the steps of dosing these. Alright, so we're on the step on that card that says to remove the plastic, remove any organic buildup from the tank, like siphon it out, and resume your normal light schedule is what it says. And then also it wants you to add a quarter dose of this Waste Away. Now, if you read the back of the Waste Away, it does have quite a few disclaimers saying do not add a full dose of this. So it may cause a drop in oxygen level, which it's terrible for your fish if the oxygen level drops, and so that's why they're highly recommending going slow with this product and making sure that the oxygen levels stay stable for your fish. So we'll uncover this plastic, we'll put a quarter dose of this in and see where we're at. I did have cardboard over the front, but it had fallen down, so I did cardboard and plastic as well. Initial first thoughts, I don't see any dinoflagellates, so that's fantastic. I just see a bunch of coralline, which is what you want. So we're looking good so far. From Dr. Tim's, again, it says to remove the plastic, start our normal light schedule. So we'll pop the radions back on and turn them on. And a quick side note, as these products are doing their job, it's going to send a lot of stuff down to your sump and clog your socks if you're using those quickly. And so I use filter cups and just get cheap floss from like a Joann Fabrics or a Michaels, and I change those out every single day. So as you can see, all that's coralline algae, which is fantastic, and all of the dinos have disappeared. Looks great. Just looks like some nice clean rock full of coralline. That is certainly what you're looking for. Okay, so lights are on. Kind of hard to tell from this distance, but there are no corals here. I actually only had a couple of sticks left, to be honest with you, and I put them over in the 125. I had alk swings as I was trying to dial in the dose and trident controlled dosing, which is ironically supposed to keep it super stable. I'm sure user error, I was doing something incorrectly and the valve started to swing, which I've been battling with. Honestly, keeping my alk super stable, which is detrimental to SPS coral. And so most of them unfortunately had died off as I was going through that. And then on top of it, I got dinos. And so this tank has been in really rough shape, but seemingly starting fresh here. Again, I took the few remaining corals I had here and put them over into the 125, got all the dinos cleared out. My fish are still doing great. I have the Tamini tang, I have a cardinal fish, I have a 6-line wrasse. Since I moved the bubble tip anemone over to the 125, I wanted to make sure I got the clowns who absolutely love that anemone over there as well. So those are the only remaining fish, but I can see all three of them doing great. They're probably a little confused that they've been in the dark for 3 days straight. But again, the rock looks great. We'll start with some new coral, some easy coral. That's only going to be after I get my alkalinity super stable on the trident for a fair amount of time. I'm going to really make sure I have that dialed in and stable, and we'll start adding corals back to this and hopefully get back on track with what the plan was of just having it be, a SPS dominated with 2 radions, beautiful Red Sea Reefer 350. Certainly not the case right now, but what's cool is, as with any YouTube channel in the saltwater industry, right, you get to see the ups and their downs for the most part. And so, it's kind of cool. You'll be able to see this hopefully grow over the life of the channel from really bare rocks to, fingers crossed, one of the hardest things to do in my opinion, just a forest of sticks. So excited to be able to take you along in that journey and
hopefully we'll get started soon.
So at the end of the day, ask 10 different reefers how to beat dinos, you're gonna get 10 different answers. This is just what has proven to work for me a couple of times. And so my advice, try the Dr. Tim's method. It's relatively cheap, it's easy to do. I can guarantee you it's not gonna work for every single person watching this video, but it's at least a good starting point to, if anything, knock them back. And then if you still have them, try some of those more aggressive approaches based on the type of dino that you have by identifying it through one of those microscopes. So thanks as always for watching the video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Like I said, hit the notification so you know when the next video comes out, hopefully next week, and we'll see you then.